It's live.
Huh?
It's a Zoom. It's kind of like a Zoom call.
Good.
This cake thing that I had so much trouble getting on last week.
All right, so I would hit, you can record if you want, and then you can mute everyone. Or if everyone just mutes. There you go. There you go. Are you good? Oh, okay. Hey everyone. I'm Melissa Mose, and I own Melissa Simply Sweet, also a founder of Home Bakers Academy. And this is Price Your Worth class. So basically, we're going to talk about everything that you need help with in how to price your product, how to figure out your cost, cookies, your weddings, everything that goes up, so that you figure out the best way so you're not giving away your product nor your time. And I know that is such like a huge issue that everyone has. So as with every class, let's, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to stop me anytime. So let's talk about pricing. Pricing is honestly, it can be one of the biggest confusing things because when you start out, you're nervous. Am I pricing myself right? Am I too high? Am I too low? And it gets confusing. So I'm going to tell you how I started, and then we can kind of go from there. And maybe you guys have had similar experiences. So when I started out, 10 years ago doing this, I did go around to all the brick and mortars, not like physically, like I looked online at all the brick and mortars in my area because I really didn't have a lot of home bakeries at the time. And I really saw what their pricing was. So I was at the time doing really cakes and cupcakes. So I priced out what was their price point of each cupcake. And I looked and I saw like everyone's price point was around, some was like $350, some was $375, some were $425. Like there was a range of them. And I made sure that as I was starting out, I was like just below, because I was starting out and I didn't have overhead of a brick and mortar. I didn't have staff. I didn't have all the, licensing and the insurance and unemployment insurance that they would carry basically on that one cupcake to help go towards paying for it. So I really priced myself just below it. And then that's how I started. So I think I started out and I was like $250 a cupcake. And when I went to start with my cakes, like my sheet cake, I think my most expensive cake was like $75. So this is how I started. And I think the one thing you have to remember is you need to see what is in your area, because what I'm going to sell for in my area is definitely not going to be the same. Like where Christy lives in a much more rural environment, she's not going to have the same price point that my people would have in Virginia in a different environment where there is just, I'm pulling from DC and Maryland and just different parts of Richmond. So that's number one. It's really hard to compare yourself. Number two is you have to base your price on your skill. So somebody who has been decorating cakes for 2 months is not going to have the same skill level as someone who's been decorating cakes for 2 years or 5 years. You're not going to have that same level. Not that it's one's bad or not. It's just that when you come out of the gate, and if you want to make a unicorn cake and your unicorn cake looks a certain way, and then you say, well, everyone else's unicorn cakes are being priced at $150. Why is mine not? You have to see how many servings is your cake, what product are you using on it, and what is the skill level to be able to go there. All right. Does anyone have any questions about that? No? Okay. So here's the biggest thing is that when I got into wedding cakes, weddings really charge by serving. So when I started selling my wedding cakes, I realized that if I'm going to charge a wedding, where I start at is my buttercream cakes start at $5.50 a serving, and my fondant cakes start at $6.50 a serving. And I felt like it was really unfair that if I'm going to hold a couple getting married to a level of $5.50 and $6.50, then that's what it should be like completely across the board. So I realized a while ago that it was just so much easier for me to say, my price point starts here, and the price point starts at per serving. So I could say that my cakes start all at $5.50 a serving. So if somebody wants to buy an 8-inch cake and they're serving 15 people, Well, my 8-inch cake serves 20. So the cost is 20 times 5.50 a serving. It doesn't matter they only want to serve 15. They're still having the product that can feed 20. It's no different if you were going to a catering and a caterer said that, the big, tray serves 15 to 20, you're going to pay the price of 20 people, even if 8 eat it or you eat it for 4 more days. So that's like a big one. And I think that's hard for people because people say, oh, I need a 6-inch, but I only need it to serve 6. It serves 12. So you need to price it that way. So on my website, and when I give out price, I'm very vague. So my pricing will start like this. I have pricing for 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, and a quarter sheet cake is my starting price of all of these. And that starting price is based off of a gourmet design, like, shaved chocolate, little frou-frou, nothing specific, just a nice gourmet design with a written. And then from there, your prices will go up depending on design. And because as your product goes, as your design increases, let's say you're adding fondant, let's say you're adding flowers, whatever the extra products you're going to need and work, you need to be paid for it. But people like to know, people swallow pricing individually better than they swallow whole pricing. It's no different than you go to Walmart and you'll buy something for $4.99, but if you saw something for $5.20, you're like, oh, it's $5.20, but $4, you see the 4. So it's all in how you market it. So when I sell like my cookies start at $3.75 each, and they go up from there depending on design. So usually I'm right around, usually it's mainly about $4.25-ish as a cookie. So if someone comes to me and wants 100 cookies, I'm not going to tell them it's going to be over $400. I'm going to tell them your cookie is $4.25 each. And in their mind, they say, well, if I'm going to give something away at a party, I'm comfortable giving away under $5 a person. That's under $5 a person. Whereas if you came to them and said your order is going to be $4.50, they're going to be like, whoa, I don't know if I want to spend that much, but they're not seeing the big picture of the individual pricing. Does anyone relate to that or have any questions about that?
The only question I have is, what would you price a 4-inch cake as, and how many people would that serve? Because okay. I've had some, not orders, but I've had a couple people ask me about it. So, okay.
So I believe a 4-inch, if you're doing it a 3-layer, it should feed maybe 8 people, depending if you're 3-layer and you're about 5 inches tall. I don't do 4 inches because personally to me, it's small and it's uncomfortable to work with. So I made the decision for me, I don't go less than a 6-inch. So when I say to people that if you want a 2-tiered cake, the smallest you can get from me is a 6-inch on an 8-inch and it feeds 35. And I don't go smaller than that. So, but a 4-inch, the easiest thing is you're going to figure out what is your cost of serving going to be, and then it does not matter what size cake you're going to make between a 4-inch or a 12-inch or a 4-tier cake. It's if your price point starts at $4 or $5 and it feeds 8 people, that's how you figure out your price. And so that's where I would go with that. And that's where you have to figure out what is your cost. So how much does each cake cost? And that you have to sit down and figure out your ingredients and the cost of your ingredients. And then you sit and you have to figure out how much of that ingredient is going into the cake. So when you finish your cake, does your cake cost $9 to make? I mean, do it separately outside of your labor. But if you figure of all my products, my cake costs, maybe figure like, I think I have an 8-inch cake figured at cost with the icing and with the cake. It was like $11.20 was the cost of the cake. And I think I actually figured in, I don't even remember if I have it figured. I have it all programmed in Cake Boss. So I use Cake Boss. So I think I do have an hourly wage entered in there and whatever. So that's what the cost of the cake is. And for me, an 8-inch cake starts at $65. And I can do an 8-inch cake from mixer to the box in about under 3 hours. So for me, it's a great price point for me. but that's also how you have to figure out exactly how much everything is costing you to put into it. And then everything changes. So, what your cost is on a vanilla cake is going to totally differ from chocolate, because now you have cocoa powder. And what kind of cocoa powder are you using? Are you able to buy your product at a discount or at wholesale or on sale and things like that? Now, for me, I went in, when I put in my cost of my products, like my butter and all that stuff, I put in almost the highest point that I've ever had to buy. So this way, when I get to buy it on sale, it's just an added slush, but I don't reconfigure the cost of every item, because what happens if that sale isn't still going on and now I'm off, So there's always like a range you want to be in, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know where you're going with it. So like when I make the one I'm going to really figure it out is I have this very large order that I do for amusement park, and they got these undecorated cookies. So I had to really sit down and figure out, because we had to negotiate pricing, exactly how much it cost me to make the cookie. And then, so I knew. So it cost the product to go into the cookie each cookie was 25 cents. That included the box, that included all the ingredients. It included everything outside of, I don't figure like electricity and such. So it cost me 25 cents to do the cookie. And I sold the cookie for, did it cost me 25 cents? Yes. And then I sold the cookie for $1.75. So my labor would be the only thing that was in there, but everything else was technically profit. So that's the part you have to kind of figure out. Did that make sense?
Yeah. But my 4-inch cakes, those will not be like cakes you would decorate with icing and stuff like that. Those I consider to be like specialty cakes, like a carrot cake, and then I just do some kind of really well, I do put a filling in it. Mm-hmm. Like a cream cheese filling in the center, but I don't. I do it to where it doesn't squish out the sides. I mean, you mm-hmm. can see it, but it's not squishing out. Mm-hmm. And then on the top, I do some kind of a fancy border with the cream cheese icing, and then I might sprinkle a few more carrots and nuts in the middle or something like that. So all of those are like my specialty cakes, the smaller specialty cakes, because not a lot of people are going to want to buy a 6 or an 8-inch carrot cake, that's strictly
How
just
many
a carrot cake.
Does it serve? How many does your 4-inch serve?
I don't know. That's what I need to figure out, is I need to, actually, I have one in the freezer, actually.
Yeah.
I did that.
And what have you sold it before in the past for?
I haven't. These are all brand new for me. Because I was in the baking business moons ago, back in my younger years. Mm-hmm. And then I got out of it and I went into the crafting business. And then when I started getting really bad health-wise, with my hands and everything, they diagnosed me with lupus and stuff after the car accident and everything. So it's harder for me to do the crafts now than it is for me to be able to bake, because at least in baking, I have tools I can use. Mm-hmm. To whereas, and, doing arts and crafts and different things like that, there really isn't any tools you can use. It's mostly just your hands.
Right.
So now I'm getting back into it.
My other question is so when you make that 4-inch cake, how many 4-inch cakes can you make off of one batch of batter?
I got 4 out of my batch.
Okay.
But I didn't make it to where they were going to like overflow, like mound over the top of it. Mm-hmm. I kind of wanted it flush because I didn't think it would look all that nice if I go and start chopping off tops.
Right. So, and if it's a 4-inch cake, and I'm like envisioning, and let's say you cut it in half, and let's say it was 2 Cheesecake Factory size servings, those nice, huge, oversized that you would normally pay anywhere from $8 to $10. Figure I'm just guessing that it would be somewhere between $15 I don't think it would be less than 15 because you're doing icing, you're making it look, and then you've got to put it on a board, you're boxing it. And if you could get anywhere between 15 to 20 a cake and you're making about 4 off of one batter, you're basically making $80. You're selling $80 worth off of one batter of icing and cake. So I think the first step to me would be cut it, see how much, and then see in your area, or anyone selling, if you see anyone who sells oversized cake slices, that's what I'd price it on.
See, and there's not a whole, because I'm in the country too.
Mhm.
And so really, there's there's only like maybe 2 or 3 people in town that even sell any kinds of like homemade stuff, and most of them are just pies. We only have one actual cake bakery in town, and she doesn't really do the specialty cakes because she's so busy with the wedding cakes and then all the birthday cakes and stuff like that she doesn't really mess with like the Bavarian cakes or
Right.
the carrot cakes or anything like that. So
I would go look at what the pie people are selling for a pie. And I would look at what her price point is for the smallest amount of cake. And then I would fit yourself right in there. Because if for someone wants to buy a pie for just the family, that would be your price point person who would buy the specialty cake that you're selling. So if they're selling their pies for $20 a pop, you might be hitting at 15, and you might pull some people that aren't feeling like pie, but yet they don't go to the cake lady because she starts at $60 for a cake. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you might be able to, so I would investigate what they're doing and then investigate exactly how much this is going to serve. And then go from there to see how far can you push the envelope with everyone of where you can price them out.
Okay.
That's what I would do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I already have my guinea pigs and everything in line. All my neighbors on my road, if I'm trying out a different recipe or I've tweaked it a little bit or something, I make smaller size portions and put them all on a plate or something, and then I go down the row and I pass them out.
And then ask them what would you pay, just to hear what people say. Now, my husband will always say he won't buy my cake because I'm too expensive for him. So don't be upset if you say that it's too expensive, but at least you're hearing what kind of in your community they're looking to buy.
Okay.
So I think that'll work. Does
Cool.
anyone else have any questions?
Thank you.
I wanted to say something, Melissa, something that you had taught a little while back, and it was just very amazing to me, and I had never thought of it, but you had your cake, and I believe it was the number cake that you had, and you were like, okay, how many servings is this going to be? So you determined, you were going to have a 2-inch by 2-inch slice, so you cut the piece of paper, and then you kind of went like this on the cake to see how many servings. And I just think that that's something really great to bring up because, if you don't know how many servings something is, you can, take a template and figure it out. And I think that can be very helpful.
I forgot I did that. But yes, you can totally do that.
I have a question about that because I would like to be known for doing those taller kind of luxe, kind of Pinteresty cakes, the tall, glamorous. So I've seen people say that when they have people cut them to serve them, they'll even have them cut them in half, like lengthwise. So earlier I talked to Melissa about, do I turn a 4-layer into a double barrel? And then she was like, well, why not just make an 8-inch? And I'm like, because I'm going for a look. So how do you price the taller cakes like that? Or do you train your clients to cut a 1-inch by 1-inch? When they're like 5 or 6 inches tall, that's really hard.
If it's a double barrel, even if you're at a wedding, a double barrel is technically 6 layers. They're still going to cut, and you should always have a board in between your double barrel if you're going to go 6 layers. So you're going to cut it as essentially 2 8-inch cakes or 6-inch cakes. They're fully separate cakes. They're just happen to be stacked exactly on top of each other. No one is going to cut all the way down because you can't. You should have a board in it. Now, if you have a 5-layer or a 4-layer, the general public will 100% cut your cake directly in half. They will cut down and they will cut across, because why? Their plates aren't big enough for it. And then it goes over, and they usually have the party plates. So unless your cake's going to fit somewhat on the party plate, they're going to cut it. It's too hard for them. I love a tall cake. Double barrel is one of my most favorites. And I do everything a minimum of 3 layers. If I have a huge wedding cake and I'm trying to capture more servings, I'll absolutely go to 4 layers on some, or 5, 100%. But even caterers will still cut it. They will not cut it all the way down and give you that whole, you will not come out with this whole slice.
Okay, so it's totally cool to train my clients, because I didn't know anything about that before I made a cake. So it's okay to train them. So if I'm doing a 6-inch cake and I'm doing a 4 or 5 layer, then I double my number of servings and I train them to cut it in half.
Absolutely. And here's the one thing that you can do if this is something you want to be known for, which I think is awesome. I would make a video, and every time you get an order and they pick it up, you send them the video on how to cut it. And that is how you train them. And then you would be known for this video, and you got the Courtney video on how to cut it, how to save it, or whatever. And I think people would kind of get a kick out of it, and it would help them tremendously on how to cut. But you have to remember, that's like the number one thing, is that if someone wants to, someone came to me and they're like, I want a 2-tiered cake, but I'm only having 6 people. That's awesome. Or I apologize. It was a wedding, and they wanted 20 servings, and they wanted a 2-tiered cake so that they could save their top tier. And I said, that's great. And so I wrote them up the bill, and I said, your cake is 35 servings. And they said, but we're only serving 20. I said, that's awesome, but you're saving the top tier. I still have to make it for you. And they're like, oh, we didn't realize that. They're like, that's fine, but we just didn't understand that. And that's the number one thing you have to train people, is that, yes, this is how many you want to feed, but if you want the look of the 10-inch, it does feed up to 30 people. If you want to go there, it's more product, it's more time, it's more everything. That's where it goes. So you have to charge for that. Even if they're only going to serve 25 people, you're still going to charge for 30, because that's what they could do. That makes sense?
Yeah, I got a screaming baby, but
that's
I'm
okay. But I do think it would be very cool to make the video. I also think that people don't understand technically, and I know there's so many videos out there right now showing the right way to actually cut the cake, like how you get it at a wedding, where you're cutting straight across, you don't cut pies. That would be great. You can add that to your website, or you can add it to your Facebook or social media, and you can make yourself a story down below where it's always there, in the little circles.
Yeah.
And you can show people, this is how you cut a cake, and you can even send it to them, or you can send them the hyperlink to it. So just so you know how to cut the cake, it's something you can incorporate on every delivery if you want.
Yeah, that's just a cool marketing idea too. I mean, just to be that guy in town that takes it up to that level.
Absolutely. And it's no different than Tammy, being that person in town that she's going to be known for the gourmet 4-inch cake that no one sells. That's your niche, is always to be the one that no one does anything, and you can come in and kind of fill the little hole. So, does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, because Walmart and Kroger's will sell the gourmet cakes for an arm and a leg, but they ain't worth a crap if you ask my opinion.
No, and there's a lot of people that through time would be like, well, I can buy this cake at, Costco doesn't sell anymore, but I can buy this cake at, Walmart or whatever, and it costs it, this certain amount. And I said, yes, but let me tell you what's in my cake: flour, sugar, butter, etc. No preservatives. You know where it's made. You know that it's not going to, germ issues. You're not going to have cross-contamination. If you were a nut-free person, I can do that, or gluten-free. But if you go to Walmart, just FYI, there's like a chunk of things down below that you don't know what those ingredients are, just so you know. And that's the difference. So that you have to deal with, people, it takes a while to train people. It took a long time to increase my pricing. And I'm going to tell you, when you know that you have to increase your pricing, or when you can, is when you're completely overbooked.
Right.
When you're overbooked is when you start raising your prices.
Right. We had to do that, when we did the crafts and stuff like that. Like I did a lot of fake bakes, and I know fake bake is new to the community. Everybody's like, well, what the hell is a fake bake? Well, I make fake cakes, fake cookies, fake milkshakes, it's basically props for pictures and stuff too.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, oh, well, we could probably go, to Walmart or something. I'm like, if you can find it at Walmart, you let me know. Because nothing I make, you're going to find at any store,
Right.
So, and I mean, if you want it real, I'm sure you could go to a grocery store and they might sell candies and cakes and stuff like that, like this, but mine aren't real. Mine are all fake. So mine are just decorations. So.
Yes. So, okay. So let's talk about how, is everyone comfortable with pricing cookies, cupcakes, pies? I'm like looking at the sheet. Let's talk about pricing wedding cakes and large events. Because this is, okay. So I don't know how many people do wedding cakes, but here's kind of the wedding cake deal. So I'm a huge person where when I get a bride and groom or a couple in, I do try to hear what what they're looking to get. And a lot of times they need, now things are so different. Right now weddings are shrunk in size. I mean, I know in Virginia, we're allowed to be at 250 again, but my weddings right now that are coming in are between 50, under 100 people is what the weddings are. So a lot of people are looking for the smaller 2-tiered cakes. They're looking for sweetheart cutting cakes. And then there's always, you have the cupcakes with the sweetheart cakes, and then you have the kitchen sheet cakes. So I do try to figure out pricing wise, like what is your price point? How much you're looking for? And so when they come in, I initially will tell them this. If you're having a wedding for 100, already take off 20 people. 20 people will not eat cake. They will nibble on their spouse's cake or significant other's cake, or they're gluten-free or they're keto or whatever it is. They're just not going to eat it. And if you're not looking to have extra, you don't need to price it. So I do try to bring it back. So because my goal is I don't want you to have all this extra product at the end of your event and then you feel like you kind of were overcharged. Some people want it. These 2 sweet brides came to me and they were having a wedding of 50 people and she wanted a 5-tier cake. She didn't care. She wanted a 5-tier cake. It's just what she wanted. She knew that they were going to eat like a tier and a half. She didn't care. So that you have ones that are like that. So you have to figure out for pricing, what is your price point per serving? And if you can do that, and you'll be able to price all your cakes, even outside, what your price point per serving is. And then you have to figure, so like, let's say I have a bride come to me and they want a fondant covered cake. So it'll start at $6.50. And then they want like sugar roses added to it and this and that. I have like a very whimsical method. It goes like this. How long do I think it's going to take me to do this cake? And I do. And I try to figure, and I say like, how long would it take me to do this or whatnot? And then I try to say, okay, you know what? Your cake is going to be $8.50 a serving. Because in my mind, I figure, well, I'm going to charge about $60 for the flowers. I have to do a lot of piping work. I'm going to charge another, couple dollars for that. And then I figured out, and then you come back to them and it's $8.50 a serving. When I do my sheet cakes and they're kitchen cakes, I charge $4 a serving for that because that to me it's still a 3-layer cake. It has all the filling the same, but I just smear the icing on the outside. I'm not looking to straighten my corners. It's rough because remember, it's going to be cut. So it'll look exactly like the wedding cake, but I'm not decorating it. I'm essentially dirty icing it. Enough that it's the same thickness, but it's not perfect, and then they can have the smaller cake outside. The sheet cake is inside. Everyone receives cake. If I do cupcakes, cupcakes are the only thing that I discount when you get to a higher volume because there isn't as much time. A gourmet cupcake where I'm just, okay, so you need 100, I'm making all the batter, it's going off. Whereas a decorated cookie, I have to touch every cookie. You can order 10 or you can order 1,000. Still gonna be the same price because I still have to touch it so many times. It's the same thing with like the decorated cakes, you know, so I don't do a discount when you get the servings go up. So, oh, you want a cake for 250? I still have to decorate it all. It's the same thing. The new thing now is like the dummy cakes, the dummy layer. You technically still have to decorate it, no different. And so even though you're not baking the product inside, it really still is almost the same amount of money to do it. And I tell people it's not really worth it unless you're looking to save it, because you can save it. But you can discount it a little bit because you're not putting product in it, but you still have to buy that styrofoam fill. And that styrofoam circle, depending on the size of it, it can cost you $10, $15. And then you have to cover it in fondant or buttercream if they want the whole fake look. It still is almost the same cost as baking the cake. They do think that that will save money as well. Does anyone have any questions on wedding cakes or anything? No? All right. So
They're in my
yes.
area, they're becoming very popular where they just buy like a sheet cake and they'll put it back in the kitchen, and then they'll
Yeah.
do like maybe like a 10 or an 8-inch that can sit out, and then the rest of it is just dummy cakes that sit on top of it, and then they have the smaller cake on the bottom that they just cut where they can take their bites and stuff. So those are really starting to become popular. We've had a couple of those.
And the only time those are really, really financially beneficial is if you have standard dummy cakes that you're essentially renting out and you're just putting their actual cake they cut on top of it. And then you take it back. And so I know that's pretty hot in certain areas. I also know they have the hidden slice is pretty hot in certain areas. So it's a full dummy cake, and there is a certain spot that the bride and groom are told where they're going to cut, and that slice is all that's real cake. And they cut that out. Everything else is fake. They do their cut, and then the cake is taken away, and they have all kitchen cake in the back. And it's just like a rental fee.
Yeah.
So
I've done one of those. I've done a 2-tier for a wedding cake, but I haven't done where the fake slices or anything like that.
Yeah. So when I also do cupcakes for a wedding, that's your other. So I was doing for a long time mini cupcakes as well. Not many people want them as much anymore. I try to push people to cake shooters because I just think it's a little bit more elegant for a wedding than the mini tiny cupcake. But the biggest problem is that when a couple comes in to do the cupcakes for the large events, their big thing is they want all these flavors. And so I try to say to people, don't have more than about 3 to 4 flavors tops, because what's going to happen is if you had at least 4 flavors, no more, a couple's going to take 2 of each, and because they're going to try both of them. And then what's going to happen is you start getting all these flavors. People start taking cupcakes and cutting them in half and eat, and you come out and you see half-eaten cupcakes everywhere. And then that doesn't work out either. So you have to kind of guide them because they don't realize what we're supposed to do. They think like, and then when we get to dessert bars, that's a whole other problem. So dessert bars typically is no different than like an appetizer. You should really figure 2 to 3 pieces of dessert per person. But I do ask a couple, like, are you having a heavy meal? Are you having a light meal? Are you going to be really dessert forward? Are you sitting down and having like a steak and lobster dinner? Then let's not have 3 pieces of dessert per person, because it's just not going to be eaten. So that's another thing. And then what ends up happening is then they come to you and they're like, okay, you say I'm having 100 people and you say I should have 2 to 3 pieces per person. So let's say we want 2 per person. That's 200 pieces. I want these 10 different items on a dessert bar. Well, now what has happened is that you're having like 1.5 dozen of each item. And now it looks like you ran out of money. And then you have 100 people and you're having like 18 to 24, lemon bars for 100 people that are going to fight over it. So I try to sit there and say, okay, you know what, let's like bring it back. Let's have like 2 things that are chocolatey. Let's get 2 things that are fruity. Let's get 2 things that are maybe, seasonal. So if it's like a fall spice family, or if it's a spring wedding, get something, fruit forward. So try to get it down to 5-6 items so that your trays can be like over lush and looking versus trays that are like all these little things everywhere and then you run out. Does anyone do dessert bars? No.
Very, very rarely.
Yeah.
But
So
I
love them. I absolutely love them. I think they're great. They are significantly more work for less money than a wedding cake. I love them, but they are, because figure if I'm going to make, 3 different types of cookies, 2 different flavors of cupcakes, I'm going to make maybe chocolate dipped strawberries, maybe lemon squares, maybe a brownie, and then I'm going to make a sweetheart cake. Now I'm baking all this versus if I'm baking a 3-tiered cake, it's the same batter base, possibly changing the flavors and going up. So I'm charging maybe $600 for my wedding cake, and my dessert bar is going to be like $400 and change, but yet I'm working like a dog. And there's no way around it. It is what it is, so that's just what they're great. But I do try to push people like, let's have more cake shooters and things like that to get more cake on it and stuff like that. So this way it's less work for me. So then therefore it's more profit, because if I'm sitting doing all these things, you have to figure also it's harder to jam pack one dessert bar when I have like a full weekend of weddings. So if I'm making all these wedding cakes, it's no big deal to add another wedding cake. But if I have a dessert bar, now my schedule is totally shifted on how much I can take. So it has to be really worth your while, then you have a delivery fee. Then the next question is, do you rent out dishes? So I rent out dishes also. And then you have to figure out, am I doing, pickup and delivery of the dishes and things like that. So there is just so many more factors that come with it. They're gorgeous, but they're definitely a lot more to do. And then you have to stand there and set them up, because you're not going to travel. Even if they provide their own dishes, you're not going to travel with your stuff ready. It's going to travel in a box. You got to sit there and you got to make it look all pretty. And you're there. I'm usually there a minimum an hour setting up a full dessert bar minimum. If I have some help, if I'm alone, depending on how big the dessert bar is, it could be bigger, longer. Anyone have any questions? All right. I'm going to take you and find a cord so I can plug in before I lose you.
all right.
Chrissy, tell everyone your story today about your pricing problem with your mother.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So first of all, my family thinks that I should be at their beck and call on every baking, everything. So my sister's boyfriend is having a birthday tomorrow, which she just told me tonight. And my mom says, oh, Christy will bake him a cake. And my sister says, I can't afford Christy. And then my mother says, well, family should be cheap. And I said, this is all group text with the family. I said, family should pay full price plus tip to support their loved ones' businesses. Dead silence. Haven't heard another word. So, I'm always, and I do donate a lot. It's definitely one of my claim to fame type things, but I do it for the community so that I can be recognized. Like when Melissa was talking about the dessert bar, I have on quite a few occasions done something like that where I've been asked to set up and donate items. Well, in that case, I would like to do a lot of little things so that many people in my community can see many different things that I do. And it's just a way to get my product out there. So I've never had to worry about necessarily pricing it, but I definitely can relate to the lot of work issue. But I do it more as a sales marketing strategy. So that's my story. And I'm not baking a cake for my sister's boyfriend.
Yes. Dad, go this way.
Kind
It's true though, Christy, because I feel like once your family or close friends know that you bake, they just expect it. Like one of my friends, her birthday is this weekend, and she's like, "I'm gonna be away this weekend, so let me know before you make my cake." I was like, "Oh, I'm making you a cake."
Right. I have one friend. Her name's Jeanette. One friend. She has 3 children, and we have been bestest friends for probably 10 years. I make all of her children's cakes every year, no cost, and that's what I do. And no one else. And I'm not going to do it for anyone else because it's what I do to make money. It's what I do. If I gave away my product with no chance of return, that doesn't make good business sense, you know?
And it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And the people that love me, that are asking for these free cakes, they should be first in line to support my business.
Right.
I
Well,
agree.
that's what ends up happening. And they feel like, a lot of times they feel like, well, you're just doing it from home, you know, it's on the side. And it took a long time, you know, for me, because I would severely discount, or it would always be like my gift, you know, if I'm going to something, I'm fine, you know, I'll do it. But it took a long time. And then I don't really do it anymore like that. So I think that's what ends up happening, and they start to realize, you know, like I have a friend who has an alarm company. I asked him to set something up for me. He billed me. So when his wife called me for a cake, I billed her, you know, because it's like, if that's your business, well, this is mine. So.
Right. And I think that family is so different. Like even my husband, and you and I, Melissa, have talked about this before. My husband has built me an entire bakery, two rooms. I have an entire bakery and one whole room full just of storage. My husband built it for me. But last week, or it might have been last month by now, he referred to it as a hobby. And
I did not like that.
no, even my husband who right, even my husband who knows my blood, sweat, and tears and has picked me up off the floor crying because, you know, whatever didn't work, you know, he still calls it a hobby, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I took my
Man.
family room because our house makes a great big circle. And we have a family room that has a fireplace in it, and nobody used it. I had expensive furniture made for it and everything that was absolutely horrible to sit on. So nobody would sit in there. We only used that room for holidays. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I was down in the basement. It's not finished. Wintertime, it's very cold. It's impossible to heat. So I told my husband, I'm like, I can't do this. Not with the metal and stuff in my legs. I said, move me upstairs. I'm taking over that family room. And he had a great big bench and everything put in for me. I had barn doors put up to separate my office from the kitchen. And I mean, I still have access to the freezers and the oven and everything. We are going to be getting a set to move into the office. But for now, I can, you know, just run back and forth. That's not a problem. But I couldn't do it. He had to build it for me upstairs. So, but what I was gonna say is it wrong of me? Because like my grandbaby will be 3 the end of this month, and my daughter said, "Mom, she wants a mermaid cake, an under the sea cake," and I said, "Okay, no problem." And I'm not charging my kids for, you know, to make my granddaughter's cake. However, I did make them go out and buy some cookie cutters because I'm gonna, the kids do not need that much fondant. Sorry, they don't. And you know they're gonna eat it, you know. So I'm doing the Rice Krispie treat, and then I'm covering it with a small layer of fondant because I would rather them eat the cereal than eat the fondant. So I made them buy the cookie cutters for the cakes and the cupcakes. I made them buy the paint colors for, I mean, just the little things that I didn't already have because she wants certain colors and stuff. And I'm like, well, this is what you got to, I gave them a list. I said, this is what you're going to have to buy if you want me to do this cake. And so, is that wrong?
Well, not if they didn't mind doing it. I don't think
Well,
it's
you know, they said, you know,
I think they probably enjoyed it. I don't think it's wrong at all, you know.
they had their few words. They're like, well, I think you should do, and I'm like, and where do you want me to come up with all this money? You
Well, then
know?
I think it gets to a point where then you're like, I can do it, but this will be the gift that I'm giving her. But she's probably too young to understand that. Maybe.
Right. Oh no, she knows that Mimi,
Yeah.
Mimi spoils that.
Or
I mean,
every grandkid in the family is going to have a mermaid cake this year.
No, I've only got 2 grandbabies, 2
Okay.
granddaughters, and we all live together. So,
Oh. Well, then they can make it with you. That'll be even more fun.
yeah. So Stella wants the Under the Sea, and Hazel started off wanting a unicorn party, and then she got addicted to watching Land Before Time, so she has now changed it to dinosaurs.
Ah.
So, and I said, you'll come off cheaper with Hazel's cake because with my son, Jacob, he wanted dinosaur cookies. So I had already bought the dinosaur cookie cutters. So I'm like, you're going to come off cheaper on her cake than you are Stella's. So.
Yeah. Cute. All right. So, all right. So not many people do dessert bars. I get that. But that's also a great thing to do, especially, you know, you never know what you might get into in the future, just in regards of pricing and things like that. I personally, and kind of the standard is really 2 to 3 pieces per person. The other thing is let's talk about wholesale pricing. Okay. So I don't know how many people have a chance to get involved with being able to price out or sell wholesale. First, I'll start with this. I know in Virginia under cottage law, you can't. So definitely before you involve yourself in investigating to wholesale out, you definitely need to check in your state to see if you're not licensed and you're running under cottage law, is it legal to do it? Because in Virginia, it's not. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that wholesale pricing is just this whole different ball game. So it kind of, you have to think about it. So I'll go on my experience. So I've wholesaled out to some restaurants in the past and things like that. And we negotiate on a price. So basically it was this Asian flair restaurant, and they wanted cookies that were geared to them and a brownie. So I changed the whole recipe, and for them, they got a sriracha brownie and they got an orange ginger chocolate crinkle. And then I would start to make different flavored stuff like for the season. And for them, how I did it with them was, because it was really my first time. First of all, I should be honest with you, I was just so excited. I didn't seek it out. They found me and they called me. So right there, I'm always excited, like, oh my God, people know who I am. And I get excited. So for them, how we priced it out was, I don't even remember, like whatever the price point was, I reduced it to, like, he told me where he could be and I reduced the cost down. And I figured because it was a drop cookie, but then it was all based on, if I'm packaging, I have to sticker. So in Virginia, if you're wholesaling out for retail, you have to have a sticker on it that basically says all the ingredients. I know that if you're a cottage baker, it has to say that it's made in an uninspected kitchen, but for a license, it just has to have like the full ingredient label plus the weight, and it had to have my business name and my city and state, and it had to be, you know, sealed. So I had to do the stickers and all of that. And then what also went into the pricing was to figure out, we had to figure out how we were going to do payment. So for him, for payment, how he wanted to do it, because he was just getting his feet wet, was he wanted to say, I want to order like 2 dozen of each flavor and I will pay you on delivery. Because he was an establishment, I didn't have a problem with it. Like, I will give you 1 shot, you know? So because he was establishment, I didn't have a problem with it. So when I delivered, he paid me. And then we worked it as, I need at least 1, because it was drop, I didn't need that much lead time. But I definitely was like, I need like a minimum of like a 48-hour lead time on you, so that I knew if you need me to get you more product. And usually he was pretty good. He started to get it figured out where he could just have a weekly delivery. He ended up changing the whole business and closing that and merging. So he brought in like a dessert person, so ice cream. So our relationship ended. But then when I went to King's Dominion, the amusement park, they wanted to buy decorated cookies from me that they could resell. And when I went into negotiation with them, it was very important to me. I wanted my sticker on it with my logo, because then I said that anybody that walked through there and purchased it now knows that the park didn't make it. This is who made it. So I was willing. They charged me a lot to get my sticker on there. Like I dropped I'll just say, I even told them when I went to make the first round of the cookies, because I ended up making like 2,500 cookies for them. But the first like 500 to be delivered, I was so angry and bitter because I gave them the cookie at like $1.25. So my cookies start at $3.75. I gave it to them at $1.25 because they charged me 30% advertising to get my sticker on it. And they turned around and they sold the cookie, I think, for $4. So it was my first time. I learn lessons all the time. My mistake was that in that environment of this amusement park is not the equivalent of like a Disneyland amusement park. So, it's not an equivalent of where the people are, or like we have a Busch Gardens near us, and then we have this King's Dominion, but it is an equivalent of people who walk through there. They don't care. They eat it. They love it. Awesome. But they threw the wrapper away. And then I got even more hit because Capital One decided not to do their family program that year. And usually Capital One takes over the park for one night and has all their family come for free, and they get to do everything. They decided not to go this year. So I got hit by that also. And what ended up happening was that I said to him, it's not profitable for me. I had no payout by having my sticker on it. If you want the cookies next year, I don't need my sticker on it. If you don't want it on it, I don't really care, but it has to be at a different price point, because as I was sitting there doing 500 cookies for him, I realized I could do 40 cookies and sell it for more than what I was doing these cookies for, if I was doing elaborate cookies. And so it was not a smart decision on my part. So whatever wholesale you look into getting, you have to decide, is this worth your time? It's great visibility, but is it going to take you away from the orders that are really going to make the profit? And in the visibility that you're going to get, is it going to turn into more orders? If it does, then it's absolutely worth it. It's always absolutely worth trying anything, because you never know. I got into the minor league baseball stadium. They came to me and they wanted to sell caramel apples. Okay, I got myself into it. We were doing it for a number of weeks, actually like almost the whole season. I bought myself a caramel apple machine because it was like, I'm like trying to whip these out. Did it get my name out there? It did. Did I care that I pulled the plug on it because he was wishy-washy? No, because the amount of time it was taking me to make the apples, I could have made one cake and been done. But when you're starting out, you got to get your name out there. So sometimes it really works and sometimes it doesn't. And don't be afraid to say it doesn't work. It's just not working for me, or it's not working for me at this price point. I have to be over here to make it worthwhile, because if I'm sitting here making 500 cookies at, $1.25 for King's Dominion, and it's taking me 8 hours to make these cookies, how many cakes could I have made in that amount of time? So that's how you have to look at it. And so there's some times where I even have weddings that will come to me, and I see what my schedule is, and I see that I could possibly slide 1 or 2 more people in. And if they're coming to me for a sweetheart cake and a dessert bar that possibly might top out around $4.50, I know that I have others that will come to me also and looking for that date that are looking for a $1,200 to $1,800 cake. It's like a no-brainer. It's also a no-brainer that even if I only have one hole, what's going to make my life easier? Even if it's the same cost, it's going to make my life easier to do the cake than all the desserts. So you have to look at your schedule like that for pricing, and also just knowing your time. And you also have to have a life. You have, the other problem is we're at home, and this is where I fall into it. So I have a commercial kitchen attached to my house, but yeah, I could essentially live in it, and I could essentially not come out at all, but I have to come out, or else everyone I live with gets very angry that I take over the weekend. So it took me a very long time, but I used to allow pickups whenever it worked for the customer, on days that whatever worked for them. I never said no to anything. And I did that. And then I started to say this, and people who've been in my class before hear me all the time. I relate myself to a hair salon. Okay. My hairdresser, I cannot go in and I cannot negotiate my cost of my highlights. I also, no salon I've ever been to is open on a Sunday and Monday. They always have 2 days off. And I've never called and said, can I just get something, tomorrow? Like, I can't. These are the hours they work. They don't answer their phone after 6 p.m. when they close. They don't come in Sundays and Mondays. They have 2 days. So I went and I did this for myself. For my weekends, I try to make my pickups on Fridays between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. I give everyone a 2-hour window. I will absolutely, based on my schedule, if I know that I'm in the kitchen baking, it's no big deal. If someone needs earlier, or I have things during the week also, but if it's a weekend event, I do my best. It's Friday pickup between 4 and 6 p.m. And the only things I do on the weekends are weddings or large events. So because what ends up happening is you lose your whole life, and everyone, nowadays, every day Saturday because it's Corona. But before then, you would lose it all. And then that all figures into your pricing as well, because you have to figure out, like, you have time off. You have to be able to recharge. You have to have time to do your regular life, make sure that, everyone's still alive in the house and eating. And then you also have to make sure that you have time to go shopping for your ingredients, check your inventory, what ingredients need, what do you need to clean out, all of that stuff to make sure that you're prepared for the following week. So, and of course, that's when you have like a really busy schedule. And like me, don't be afraid. This is the best business ever because you get to own your schedule. So my kids drove my mom home. My parents have a house in Virginia near me, and my mom has been stuck there since February. So she was afraid to fly. So my kids drove across country to California with her to get her out here. So I closed because I had to come out here to fly them home because they didn't want to fly home alone with everything going on. So you're able to sit back and look at your schedule and say, block out your time. This is my time I'm going to not be taking orders. This is my time I am, and figure all of that out. And then market it, market it. Go online. You can Google the calendars. I'm sure everyone has seen them. All you got to do is Google August calendar. You get the cute little calendar. Put on your little schedule. Don't say closed. People don't like it. Say booked. Say limited spacing. People want what they can't have. And so when they think that you're almost sold out or you're almost fully booked, then they start panicking. And then I had to train everyone. You need to start putting it, even if you don't know what you want, but you need to start putting your stuff in early. So it took a lot of training to get people to realize, don't call me. Like, I had someone on my way to the airport call me up. My flight was at 3 p.m. So we were in the car at 2. My flight was at 5. We were in the car at 2 o'clock. No joke. This man called on speakerphone. My husband could hear. Hi, I'm just interested in a birthday cake. I would need that delivered today between 5 p.m. I just want to know what you have available. Seriously. Now, I will say it makes me happy because my main goal was to make it present that I was a storefront. And so my goal is always to present, like, if I write things, it's only recently do I say I usually say we. My machine is we are busy in the kitchen. So I do try. So people are always like very shocked, like, oh, it's just you. I'm like, it's just me. Like, there is no one else around. So that was it. But people do. People like the whole last minute thing. And so if you start marketing what's coming, you know that you've got a cake coming. You know that you have a wedding tasting, let's say, coming. You know that you have to make all these flavors. Start putting out on your social media. Next week's flavors are da, 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 da. See if you can get any bites. You can sell it. Now, what you're selling to do your tasting, you can actually double sell. Or let's say, you have a red velvet cake leaving this week. If you say the week before, hey, I got red velvet cupcakes next week, you can maybe just double your batter. You could sell off 2 dozen cupcakes that you never would have made any other reason, but you already got the buyers for them, and it's already, you pre-sell it. And then when you're making it, you're just doubling your batch, and you're not doubling your work time really, because it's just cupcakes. It's not like you're decorating extra cake. So that's the thing. Does anyone have any questions at all? No.
That's very smart.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you do that for like pies and stuff like that? Say like,
You do it for everything.
just say, say like, you like I want to advertise 3 different flavors of homemade pies for this upcoming week, or 3 different cakes the following week, or something like that. Would that work?
You could go and make yourself a monthly menu if you wanted, or a weekly menu. And I do not do anything without full payment. I will be honest, when I first started, I was yes. What do you do? You're unmuted, Courtney.
No, I'm sorry. I was like, me too. Full payment, period.
Right.
Done.
So when I started out, I was so small that my main thing was, it's cake. If someone doesn't show up, my family will eat it. But I wasn't making anything elaborate at the time. Then I got stood up for a very small 6-inch cake wedding anniversary. And I said, I'm all done. Because here's the deal. If I am going to go book any appointment, if I'm going to go book a caterer for an event, this, and this, they're all want to be paid up front. If I want to order something from Amazon, they're not going to let me pay them when my Amazon arrival arrives. They're just not. That's not how it works. So my goal, my thing is this. On my email, I have it pre-stated in a signature that if you ever receive an email from me, and I put it on the group all the time. It basically states this. I will read it to you because I was very tired of people emailing me for a quote, and then I had to chase them, which I'm not going to chase you, but they would email me for a quote. And then 2 weeks later, they'd come back and they'd say, hey, okay, we decided on vanilla flavor. And I'd say, hey, I'm booked. So on my signature, it says, availability is based on the current schedule. The delivery date is not guaranteed till there is a paid invoice. When inquiring on pricing and or availability, please respond within 48 hours to secure your reservation order. Then it says, please note your order is not confirmed until there is an invoice is paid or a deposit is made depending on the price. So for me, anything under $300 or under is full payment when you make your order. Anything over $300, I take 50% when you secure your order, and I take the balance 7 days before the event. If it is a wedding, I take it 2 weeks prior. Only reason is because couples are so crazy a week before. I don't want them to have to focus about any of that. So I put them at 2 weeks before just to make it easy. That's how I do it. So I don't turn my ovens on. So what I will do when I want to promote, if I know, like, let's say I have a wedding tasting coming this week, I will know what flavors, or let's say I just know what orders I have the next coming weeks. I will promote and I will say, this is what's coming. Hurry up. Only a few a limited quantity, reserve now, and you can pay. You can set up a Square account that they can do it all on Square, and that you don't have to talk to anyone and they don't have to email you. The key is you want to make sure, to make your life easier, that they're not texting and then they DM on Facebook and they're messaging on Instagram and they're emailing on personal and then they're emailing you on your business, and you have all these orders everywhere that you're trying to figure out. So I have told everyone, and I train everyone, you don't have an invoice from me, you don't have an order. If you didn't pay a bill, you don't have an order. Even my friends know. Because I don't go on that. I look at my Cake Boss and what my orders are, and that's what I bake off of, because that's what's paid and that's what's done. It's just, it becomes, when orders start rolling, it becomes too hard. So when you know what's coming out, you start promoting it, see if you can pick people up. And here's what I do, and this is my secret trick. When you have stuff on, and let's say you get no orders, now you're sold out. So now you will post sold out, right? Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. I love you so much. I can't believe the amount of support. 2 days later, you'll now promote what's coming the following week. And now you'll get people because now they realize, oh my God, I was just going to wait till it's closer, but she sells out so early. I need to actually jump on it and do it right now. So people, it's just, you know, demand. And then they realize it. So I tell everyone that, well, I don't tell everyone, but I tell everyone in this group, here's what I did. I did virtual cookie and cake classes over COVID. Basically, mainly local people, but I would send them like the cookie kit and all of the product. And then we would do over Zoom, similar to this, but I gave them the product, all the product to do. And I did it for a cake class. And I had it up for like 2 hours. And then I made it sold out. And people freaked out. And they're like, oh my God, I barely saw it. And I said, I'm forming a wait list for my next class if you'd like to get on it. And they got on the next class. And then my next class was filled in a minute because they saw that it goes so fast. And it's just training them that it comes easy and goes. And people I know who have known me from years, I will take tons of pictures of everything I make. And I have like thousands of pictures. So I could be sitting getting my highlights done and pretend I'm making caramel. And like my friends will be like, are you making it? And I'll be like, no. But then someone will be like, oh my God, do you have a bag? And I'd say sold out for today, but I can have it for you tomorrow. And now I just sold caramel for tomorrow. So it's just making sure that when you are posting and you're marketing yourself on social media, try to be as forward as you can be. Try to go into your story on Instagram and Facebook. I post on Instagram and push it all to Facebook, so it's only one time. Try to do it daily. Make it so people see you and see what's going on. And when you're making anything you're making, take tons of pictures so you can crop and reuse as it goes. So you're not making all this product that you've already made that you know you can resell.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my secret trick.
I was going to ask a really quick question. I hope you don't mind. I sent an email, and I think Christy was the one that replied to it. I was watching one of your classes, and you were, I don't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but you were like rambling on and on and on about order from this place and order from that place, and I was like, I can't keep up with this. So I had asked if there was a way, or is there something on the website itself where you have a list of like the wholesalers that you buy from, or
yeah, and I had said that because it's so hard. I'm like going like a mile a minute trying to remember everything, but I believe I gave it all to Christine. We have it posted, the favorite things list, don't we? Have it on the site?
I think so. It might be called resources. I'll look for it and then I'll post it in the academy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, because that would help me out a lot too, because I have an EIN number. And
have you ordered from Deco Pack?
No, see, I didn't know anything about them. I didn't know where to I didn't know where to like get my boxes, or and I was gonna ask you like your plastic containers. I think you showed one plastic container.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was for your cupcakes or something like that. Do you order them wholesale?
So the plastic containers I bought from Restaurant Depot, which is, I don't know if you have one near you. They sell them from local places. That's great for like pie and stuff, but I used them when I would go to like farmers markets and such, and I would put brownies or muffins in them. It's called a plastic clamshell container. For my cupcakes, I put in boxes. All my boxes I get from BRP Box Shop, but we'll totally put the list up. But this Deco Pack, I just ordered for the first time, and they sell sprinkles and like all this other stuff. My sprinkles, like this massive container, was literally, the regulars were $4.80, and like the fancy ones were like $6.80 or something. I just couldn't get over how inexpensive, and the product was awesome. Like when I baked the funfetti with the sprinkles in it. The colors were so bright, way better than CK products. I was very impressed. So if you have an EIN number, you can buy from them, and the shipping is minimal. I bought, I think, 10 big containers of sprinkles. I think my shipping was $7. So it was definitely something to look at.
I remember what it is now.
Okay.
I was you were doing fondant. It was
Yes.
something with fondant,
Yes.
and I couldn't catch on to where you kept saying
Oh, Fonderific.
I don't.
I use Fonderific.
Yeah, because I don't know if it was your phone or your end or if it was my end, but every time you would go to say the word, it would be like, and I was
So,
like, oh.
So yeah, so since you have an EIN number, you can order from it's Fonderific, like fondant and terrific together, Fonderific, and they are in Georgia. It's a woman-owned business, but they are wholesale and they are amazing. I absolutely love them, and the pricing is like half the price of what you would find retail, and their shipping is lickety split fast.
Okay.
So,
And then the
and
other,
you can find them in like Michael's and I think Walmart now and things like that if you want to try them.
we don't have them here in Missouri. I have not seen any of it here in Missouri.
Okay.
Most of what I can get is usually just the Wilton
Wilton.
stuff. So
Yeah.
the other thing I was going to ask is my husband, because he was kind of leaning over my shoulder when we were watching that video. He's like, "What the heck is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's her roller."
Oh, my sheeter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your sheeter, yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Wow, that's pretty cool. Where can we get one of those?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I'm gonna find out."
So my sheeter is from Somerset, and you can buy direct from Somerset. That one is the CDR 500. It's for dough and fondant, and I think that mine is a 16-inch or it's an 18. I think maybe an 18-inch is about 4,500. But you can buy direct from Somerset and Webstaurant. I don't know if they sell Somerset, but you can find them everywhere. And I do cookies on them as well as pie and fondant.
Okay, is there any way you could put that on the website too, or?
Oh yeah, it's on the. It should be on the list of everything. So yeah, so it's there.
Hey,
And
Melissa.
then on it, if you come across anything, feel free to email me, and I'll give you other stuff too.
Oh yeah, and then we
Okay.
can add
All
it
right,
to the
cool.
list too. I wanted to backtrack just a little bit, Melissa.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you talked about it, but I'm not sure if you really said what I found to be so impressive was you had said that if they don't get an invoice from you, then there's no order. And you kind of alluded to, personal Facebook, business Facebook, email, texting. But if I remember correctly, you had said once that no matter how they contact you, you always bring them back to email me.
Right.
And-
So
and
on my thing, I have a saying there as well. So on all of my Facebook messengers, especially my business, it does say if you are for orders, inquiries, and anyone here who's messaged me, order inquiries, please email me and this number. So I will. The thing is that to send the invoice, I have to have the email. So even if I start talking to you on Messenger, for me to then move you to invoice, I have to then get your email, and then I move it over to email. And then, because then I will do your invoice, and then it goes by email, and then I walk away from Messenger and have you there on email. Yeah. I just think it becomes so hard having it everywhere. And then I feel like that's when you start getting those real risks that you forgot an order or you forgot someone and then they go back and forth. I also turn off my availability. I don't think the right term is availability, but I don't allow people to see that I'm online on Facebook. And I highly recommend that because I know me, and if you guys know me, you see that I'm almost on all the time. And I'm very, very available. So sometimes if I can't sleep or I'm on late at night, I'm on Facebook. But if you have it set in your settings on Messenger that people can see, now they think at 11 o'clock at night, they can go back and forth with the orders. But I also used to answer every phone call instantly, and I would answer emails instantly. And my husband would say to me, like, are so quick sometimes that you get yourself into a bind. And so I really will take like a moment. I will not answer. Sometimes I'll let it go to voicemail, but with an email, I will look at what my calendar looks like before I initially go out and just say, yes, I can do it. There are some things I won't turn down. And those are always the things where I know that I can have exposure. Like a marketing agency contacted me. I do a lot of work for them for their in-house stuff, but then they contact me within 24 hours that they needed a cake for a Discover Card commercial. Well, I'm not sleeping for that. You'd be insane to sleep for that. So there's certain things where it's like, it is a big corporation that I do a lot of stuff with, they know that in the middle of December when I'm already closed, I'll still take their order because it's a reputation, it's a relationship we have all year long that I don't want them to, for a second, go elsewhere. But I will always refer out. So I have another bakery that does cakes. They refer to me and I refer to them. And I have a couple cookie people in my area that we do back and forth. Because here's the deal. When someone contacts you and you can't do it, you will be looked at so highly that I will respond like this. My emails usually go like this. Thank you for contacting me. Unfortunately, I'm unavailable for that date, but I would recommend Sweet Fix or I'd recommend Little Stuff cookies. And they will instantly come back to me and say, oh my gosh, I will. But then I end it with, please think of me next time. And they will come back to me every time and say, thank you so much for offering up someone else's name. We will absolutely come back. Because now it's like, you know what? Bakeries are like lawyers. You always need them. There's always way too many of them. And there's always way too much work that one could ever do. So it doesn't hurt to promote to someone else when you're busy, because now you're looked at like, oh, you know what? This woman is so giving. This business is so nice and generous that they don't want the customer to suffer about where to go. They want to help them find, because they can't help me. I can't, so it's a complete reciprocal thing. And I even had someone just contact me and I said, go to Little Stuff. And she said, you know what? We went to them the last time you were out of town, wanted to make sure see if you were available, but you're booked. So we'll go there, but we'll call you the next time. And there's nothing wrong with that, so don't be afraid to, find someone you can recommend and get yourself a community that you feel good about. Yes. Does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, I did want to ask you one thing. So when you have all these emails from all your customers and everything, I mean, I don't know your schedule or anything like that. I don't think I want to know your schedule. I think I would go that crazy with it. But if there's ever a time in the year when your business has slowed down some, do you maybe send out a wide email to all your past clients or whatever and offer one big special or something just strictly for them?
No. So what I'll do is if I feel like I have a really quiet month, I don't know what happens. The months just start to fill up. But let's say I have a really quiet window of time, I will start doing flash sales, or I will just, because I do decorated cookies as well. So I actually decided this summer, before everything got crazy, I wanted to not take custom orders over the summer because I really wanted to do flash sales where I got to choose the designs of the cookies I want to do. I got to do cookie kits and things like that, and then I can push it out. I had a couple hiccups because I hurt my hand and things like that. But if I'm available and not doing much, I will just start promoting what's coming this week. And that's when and I will have no minimum. So I'll be like, you know what, let's have a cupcake week. These are the cupcake flavors, no minimum, mix and match, you decide. And then I've now filled my whole week. So I'll do things like that where I usually have a dozen minimum. So they never have the ability with me to be able to mix and match a box because I don't have a storefront to sell it. So you gotta kind of buy a whole dozen to make it worth my while. But then that's the other thing regarding, the one thing I didn't say before we go is regarding wedding tastings and tastings. So I charge $50 for a tasting, and in a tasting, and again, this is all trial and error. So when I wanted to get into tastings, I went and called around to see how much they charge. And I found most brick and mortars charge between $20 to $25 for a tasting. But then I remember they don't care, because that's just what they're going to put in their case. So they have somewhere for all this product to go. So I said, originally when I started, I was like, I'm going to do $50. So I do $50. And then I said, you can pick 4 cake flavors. And then when it started, everyone wanted like all these extra icing flavors. And I said, this is now becoming like ridiculous. So I made it 2 icing flavors. And then when I really started, if you booked your wedding cake, the cost of the tasting was applied to your wedding. Okay. So that was great. And that got my foot in the door with a lot of people and got me a lot of weddings. But then what I would start noticing is then people are ordering sweetheart cakes and cupcakes for their weddings. So their wedding is like maybe tops out at $300. Well, now I just gave them back $50. So now my wedding is like $250, right? So then I was like, I did it for a while. I was like, this really isn't working for me, you know? So then I said, okay. Oh, also at the same time, I started off, there's a huge baker here that's been around for many, many years, very, very well known in LA. And what that company does is on your anniversary, you come back and they will make you your same cake top as your anniversary gift as a gift. So I was like, you know, that's a really cool thing. So I would do that. I would say your $50 was reapplied to your wedding, and then come to me in a year and I will give you your cake topper again, fresh, just like it was at your wedding. So that was awesome, right? This is awesome until the following year rolls around and their wedding is in wedding season, right? So I only did that 1 year and then I walked away from it. And no one said anything or noticed, because it's always new couples. Then I said that if you do your tasting and you book your wedding and your wedding is over $500, the cost of the tasting is applied, because then it took it away from these very tiny weddings. I also really stand firm that I'm not going to do a tasting when you're having a wedding for 35 people. And I understand that sometimes I bend, and I understand that even though you're having a small wedding, that you still want all the fun goodies that come with planning a wedding. But at the same time, if your wedding is going to be 35 people, so that means you're going to order the smallest 2-tiered cake. Is it really worth your time to sit for the $50? So I know a lot of bakeries will not do a tasting for under 100 servings. So what I do is I let the couples slide through with the weddings, but if it's an event, I don't allow a tasting for under 100 servings for an event. The couples, I get it. They want the goodies, but I also limit it to 3 people. First, it's in my kitchen. So that's number 1. Second, when you have anything more than 3 people, which is usually the couple and 1 parent that's paying, you've got all these opinions. It's no different than going shopping for a wedding dress. And it's just, it's so much, like the couple can't focus to talk to you and things like that. So, but again, for me, it's always trial and error. Like I didn't have the luxury of having like an awesome group where I could go to and people would tell me. I really had to figure a lot of this stuff out on my own, see what works for me. You've got to see what works for you. And of course, in your area, everything is so different and what you want to offer and not offer. Personally, I say this to the people when they talk about a wedding cake. I always say, do you want to save your top tier? I'm just going to let you know, it didn't help my first marriage. Didn't save it for my second. It's up to you. But I always say, come back to me in a year and I'll make you a fresh cake. And they usually always do. And they never say like, oh, do we get one? They always do. And the one difference is I still charge them the fee for the whatever the 6 inches they want, but I will always squeeze them in. And I will never say no for a previous couple. And I've been doing couples where they got engaged to where now they've had their second child and I do their birthday cake. So it's like these nice long relationships that have gone on for years. And that's always fun too. It's like you get that. So.
Absolutely. I get pretty excited when one of my regulars has a baby because I know, all right, here we go again.
Yeah.
I
Isn't
just
it fun?
want
I have actually my last wedding, my last birthday cake I just did, that little mermaid one. I'll be honest with you, I did the gender reveal for her, and I did her first birthday and her second, and now her parents are getting married. They just got engaged, and she's like, "We're going backwards, but now we're getting married." So I got to do it the reverse.
there you go. Something that that whole segment that you just said, in a recap, I thought it was extremely important, is to ask yourself, is this working for me? It is a very good idea to have trial and error. It's okay to try something. If it doesn't work, change. Be flexible. It's a very important and very good to be able to notice when something's not working and alter your plan.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Don't be afraid to stop something and change it. Doesn't work, change it. Yeah. And what works for me might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for me. So you got to do what works also 100% for you as well. What feels good, what you like, and what makes you happy. Because the key is that if you're doing stuff and you're working like a dog, but you're not loving it, your time is very limited in this industry. And if for me, no matter how tired I am or whatever, I can still be like, oh my God, these cookies still look gorgeous. And my husband can be like, you are insane. And I'll be like, no, I just absolutely love it, no matter if I'm sleeping or not. And so that's what you want to maintain, is that you always have a passion for it, because it's exhausting.
Yeah. And I hope that everyone, if they got nothing else from this, or maybe, I mean, that's a little silly, but the most important thing is pricing your baked goods is not, it's not about a number. It's not about how much flour costs. I hope that you can see that it encompasses so much more. And Melissa or I are both willing to sit down with you one-on-one and help you find the comps in your area and help you on a more one-on-one basis. But do yourself a favor and don't ask, well, how much should I charge? Because it just encompasses so much more than just how much does this cost. I hope I'm saying that in a way that makes sense. It's so much more, you know, your value, your area, your skill level. You have to take all of that into consideration. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna ask if, by any chance, if you could put like a generic price sheet up on the website for us, you know, kind of like a guide that we could kind of sort of go by, and then, you know, and I mean, of course, we'll still check around our areas and everything, but like, I would have no idea like how much to charge for a cake pop or anything like that. Because not a lot of people in my area, I don't even know if anybody in our area besides Starbucks sells them, and I'm not going to compete with.
And then that's what you go on. But that's what you go on. You know what I'm saying? So if no one does anything in your area, look at your restaurants, look at Starbucks. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I look at Starbucks and what Starbucks is trying to sell, or Target is trying to sell for a decorated cookie, and they're trying to sell, or Williams-Sonoma, they're going to sell, you know, $10 for this cookie that you know is probably crap. And then I say to myself, okay, you know what? Me charging $5 for my cookie is totally fine. You know, but listen, my website, you feel free to look at my website. There's pricing on my website. Again, it's going to be hard to judge because that's me. But and I say that because I'm in a different area, and so what I make might not even be geared to what you make. I know Christy has a website. I'm sure she probably has some generic pricing on it also. But be really careful when you put pricing in writing. Like, I have known many people to get themselves in a pickle where they make their lives hard, you know, where they're like, okay, you know, a cookie with 3 colors is this, and then if it has this
you add an extra 25 cents, and they've written it out so much. Be vague. Find yourself the starting price, and then feel what's comfortable where to go with that starting price based on what anything elaborate they want to sell. So look at your pie places, look at all your restaurants in your community that sell any form of dessert, and that's what the people in your area, that's what they're paying. So that's what you have to go on. So if Starbucks sells their stupid, nasty cake pop for $2.50 a piece, and no one else in your environment sells it, then you better start at $4 a piece, just to get them pretty cozy with the fact that yours is significantly better. And then as your skill increases and you get a following, you can start increasing it to whatever. I'm not a cake pop person. So whatever the cake pop, price point you feel really happy at, based on how long it takes you to make it and that stuff. But that's my biggest thing, is when you're pricing yourself, is to figure out your starting point, which has to be, if you're going to only sell in a 20-mile radius, then that's your radius of what people are going to buy.
Okay. All right. And then
Yeah.
Christy, I was watching the Recipe Club. When exactly do you guys meet? I was trying to figure that out.
Our
So
next
I'm kind of lost on that.
Our next class will be on the 27th. If you go onto the Home Bakers Academy Facebook page, there is an event for each one. So if you go on there and just respond going to each one, then you'll have all of the events right there.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Okay?
Yeah, I've been so busy with the actual members thing, members classes and everything, that I haven't paid much attention to the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Which I probably should be on there more too.
Well, luckily it's all there for you to access whenever you need it. And so that's the best part about it, is that it's there, and we're there, and it's because there's less people to be in that Facebook group, you had to have at least bought one class. So therefore it's a smaller community. So things do not get lost. If you needed something answered and you really want it really, really quick, definitely tag one of us in it. We'll see it even faster. But we're both really pretty good about being available constantly. And don't ever hesitate for anyone to reach out by messenger, by text, by email. Always available. There is, when you are a member on the page, there is a mentor section. And so you can feel free to schedule a meeting with me or Christy, whichever works for you. And I've done it with a handful of members now, and it's awesome because they'll come with questions, and it's really like geared towards them, and it's just kind of picking someone else's brain. I always am learning. Everyone's learning. And so therefore it's a little bit easier one-on-one. So we're always around for that. The other thing I want to talk about before we go, because I know we've held you so long, is next week we have Christy's striped cone cake class, which is super exciting because I get to just sit back and watch and I don't have to bake. So I'm excited, and it'll be awesome. The week after that, I will be home, and so we will have our everything about roses. So we'll have buttercream, fondant, gum paste, and we're just going to go all rose and everything. Oh, and I think I'm going to do royal icing roses also, to do toothpick roses and things like that. So it's all rose class, and this class and the rose class is only for members, so it can't be purchased outside of membership. And then we also have, I believe next Tuesday, we have our business brainstorming class.
Yes.
It's not class, it's just like a hangout. But the other thing that we're going to really kind of focus on these brainstorming ones is we're really going to tap into some of the business stuff. So if you have questions about how do I get the LLC, the EIN, banking, things like that, bring those questions, because we all can pick up something from everyone. And then just to talk about how to, market ourselves better and, vent on crazy customers, all that good stuff. And we're not taping those because Melissa gets herself into way too much trouble. She says things she shouldn't say. So we won't do that. And then I think and then at the end of the month, we have Christy's cookbook club, which will be awesome. And I think we're going to have some really fun, exciting new changes coming for August. So tap into that, because I think I'm pretty excited. Christy and I have been brainstorming, and we've come up with a very awesome idea that I cannot say yet. So that'll be cool. And oh, I have on the main page on the 27th, Monday, I have a free airbrush class. So if you have questions about airbrushing, that is on We Are Home Business Bakers. I'm doing a free class there. And then I think in August, I have a free pie class. We're doing pie. So, whew,
And where is that though? Is that a website or something?
so that's the main group, We Are Home Business Bakers. That's the one that you started on. That's free. That one has the free class on it.
Oh,
But we
okay.
can send you the link if you get lost. We will remind we will actually share the link in Home Bakers Academy just to remind all of you guys to go over there for that free class that you can sign up for. And so that'll be fun.
Can you send me a link to that? That would be awesome because I don't know if I have it anymore.
Yes, on it. Perfect. All right. Does anyone have any other questions or anything before we go? Sorry we were so late. No? All right. Well, I had an awesome time as always. This was great. As I always say, feel free to reach out to Christy and I anytime. We're always here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. And I
Thank
will
you
see
so much. Bye, Melissa. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.